Hi, you're watching us on NewsX YouTube. My name is Devika Chopra. With me is Rishabh Gulati, and we will be analyzing today the China's Trojan currency plot. Rishabh, this is very interesting. What's happening across the world? But let's begin with some context. How has the world financial system been dominated by the dollar till now?
Okay, so the premise is you have a dollar-dominated global financial system. Everything from forex reserves to trade to settlements to financial markets. Control not only in terms of the currency but in control of the mechanisms in which the currencies are traded, all dominated by the US and the US dollar. The Chinese want to replace this with domination both in terms of control and currency with them, the yuan. I'm going to put a caveat in, the yuan is also called the renminbi, so that's an interchangeable term as we'll be doing in this video. So now, here's a reality check. 2/3 of all global forex reserves, there are about $12 trillion worth of global forex reserves lying in various countries. India has about $430 billion in forex reserves. So 2/3, 66% of that $12 trillion is held directly in US dollars. So 2/3 of global forex reserves held by countries are in dollars, 20% are in euros, and a further 1.5 trillion is held in gold. So the vast majority of the global financial currency reserve is either dollars, vast majority, followed by euros, followed by gold. Then there is a system called special drawing rights. Now this was a system created specifically in 1969 by the International Monetary Fund. And this was because global countries were getting concerned that look, the dollar is dominating all financial transactions including our currency reserves. So they created an artificial currency called SDR. And when you see the forex calculation, including India's forex calculation, you have X number held in US dollars or dollar convertible value, which is sterling and etc. X amount held in gold, and X amount which is your special drawing right from the IMF, which means that the IMF holds an artificial currency which is again valued in dollars, 10, 20, 30 billion dollars, which is your special drawing right from the IMF. You don't have to physically hold the dollars in your RBI or other financial institutions within your country. Now, this is how the global chain is dominated. When we're looking at the understanding of China specifically in this and the global domination and why this is important, number one, the global financial institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, are again not controlled per se, but they are dominated by the US. You can't get an IMF loan sanctioned without the US voting in favor. Same applies roughly in the World Bank. Mostly oil contracts, almost all contracts are decided and settled in dollars. So if India wants to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, that transaction deal is done in US dollars. Okay. There was a big conversation happening in India regarding Iran a couple of years ago. The reason that conversation was happening was because Iran was agreeing to accept Indian rupees and not dollars to buy oil from them when they were going through that sanction problem with the United States and still are. So this entire financial base, forex reserves held in dollars, oil contract done in dollars, international consortium transactions and trade settlements are done in dollars. So if you want to, let's say, buy 10 million tons of food grain from Canada, that settlement is being done in dollars and the contract is being done in dollars. And finally, the settlement of these contracts, Devika, happens through something called the SWIFT system. If anybody watching the video has ever done an international transaction, you have to give a SWIFT code along with the bank code. So how this basically works is every bank, let's say HDFC in India or SBI in India, they will have a special server, one single server that is connected to the international SWIFT servers, and through which the transactions are done. And these international SWIFT servers run in 3 countries, and those 3 countries are Netherlands, Switzerland and America. So if you want to send money from here to London, a London bank, you will have the SWIFT code. That money will go from your bank's account to your bank's SWIFT server, from your bank's SWIFT server to that bank's SWIFT server via a transactional settlement that is either operating in the Netherlands or operating in Switzerland. Now, this is a system that's dominated by the Europeans and the Americans. So basically 50% of global transactions happen through the SWIFT system. So technically they can both check and block these transactions. And this is how the control of the current financial markets functions. Then of course comes to what China is up to.
So Rishabh, in this current context, how exactly is the Chinese yuan then creeping up as a reserve currency? How are they making that happen?
Okay, so what the Chinese are doing is currently of the $12 trillion in forex reserves I mentioned, vast majority are held in dollars, euros and gold, almost nothing in China. Okay, but that is changing in the Chinese yuan, that is changing. As of this year 2020, a record amount of forex reserves are being held by countries in yuan. So what happened was that in 2015, under a lot of Chinese pressure, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, allowed the yuan to become a reserve currency. So up until then, only the pound, sterling, US dollar and the Japanese yen were reserve currencies. Then they added the euro, and now in 2015 they've added the yuan. So what is this has resulted in that as of this year 2020, $220 billion of forex reserves. That's roughly 2% of the total. It's a very small percentage, but it's the highest ever, is being held in the Chinese currency. So they are holding yuan, they are not holding dollars as 2%, 290 billion. Beyond that, of the global international debt, $1.5 trillion, India's GDP is under $3 trillion. So 50% of India's GDP is the amount global countries owe as debt to China. Okay, so they have taken on a huge load of international debt which is owed to the Chinese. 50 developing countries, 50, owe 15% of their annual GDP as debt to China. Countries like Djibouti, Tonga, Maldives, Congo, Kyrgyzstan, Cambodia, Niger, Laos, Zambia, Samoa, Vanuatu and Mongolia, they owe more than 20% of their annual GDP as debt to China. Take an example of Pakistan. Pakistan's both official and hidden debt is roughly $100 billion to China and Chinese companies. That's 30% of Pakistan's GDP. Think about it. $100 billion, 30% of Pakistan's annual GDP they owe as debt to China. So the impact value of all of this is that more countries are already holding the yuan than ever before as a reserve currency. Many countries owe large parts of their debt to China. Now currently this debt was being calculated in dollars. The Chinese of course would want that debt to be calculated in yuan, which we'll get on later into the system.
Okay, and also Rishabh, you were telling us a little bit about the SWIFT system earlier, which is really important to this entire context that we're talking about. If you can shed some more light on that.
Okay, the SWIFT system was set up in 1973 in Brussels. Okay, currently as I mentioned there are 3 settlement centers. So any SWIFT transaction has to go through a server. Those servers are either in the US, in the Netherlands or Switzerland. So any international monetary transaction, 50% of them are covered by SWIFT, has to go through a SWIFT server. Okay, now technically that should allow you privacy. Technically it should allow you freedom to transfer funds, but the reality is that 200 countries follow the SWIFT system, 11,000 financial institutions. So most of the big banks in the country will have are SWIFT connected. Now the issue for the Chinese here is that, and a lesson learned, let's say from Iran, when the Americans said that Iran was violative because of its nuclear ambitions, so therefore should be kicked out of the SWIFT system. That means nobody could make a SWIFT transaction into Iran or out of Iran for several years until 2016. Similarly, the Americans said that we should have the data because we want to target terror transfers after 9/11. So if the server is on your soil, you can track the data, and the Americans have also shown that they can block transactions. Now the 2 ways the Americans block transactions which they find unpalatable or suspicious. Number 1, the transactions are going through the SWIFT system, and number 2, the transactions are happening in US dollars. So that's a sovereign currency. So that gives sovereign rights immediately to the Americans. So if a transaction is happening, the US dollar, remember, is if a printed US dollar is promised to pay the bearer, right? Same thing in India. The rights of that are held by the US Federal Reserve. So if the transaction is happening in dollars, they have sovereign rights over it to block it. And number two, if the server is in the US and operating out of the US, they have sovereign rights to block it. Subsequently, after 9/11 and in the past a decade or two, the Americans have started monitoring all transactions even coming in from Europe. Okay, using the terrorism thing that look, if there are dodgy financial transactions happening, so basically clearance has to be given for those transactions coming from Europe into America. So the Americans control a large part of SWIFT, not only physically but with oversight and by law, because a large part of the SWIFT transactions are done in dollars. This is a huge problem for China because they don't control, the server is not within their control with the People's Bank. The transactions are not being done in their currency. They don't have physical control of the system. They don't have physical control of the servers, which is a major problem, which is what they're trying to replace.
Okay, so Rishabh, how exactly are they doing that? What all is then converting to the yuan?
Okay, so as I mentioned, 2% of global forex reserves are now in yuan, highest ever. Okay, the IMF, as I mentioned, includes yuan in its special drawing rights. Okay, this has happened in the very recent past. The yuan is now the fourth most used currency in the world after the yen, euro, and the dollar. Okay, so as the number of people conducting transactions in yuans is rising. In 2018, China tried to break the fact that all oil contracts were done in dollars, and in 2018 they started issuing oil contracts in yuan. Basically, if you want to buy oil from us, we will pay you in yuan kind of logic. What they've now done is that they have tried to counteract the SWIFT system by setting up settlement trading hubs. They're calling them renminbi trading hubs. They've set up one in Singapore, they've set up one in London, and they've set up one in Canada. Basically to say that, okay, Devika, let's say you are purchasing 10 tons of goods from me. Okay. Now you are paying me in dollars using a SWIFT settlement system. Okay. Now you want to pay me in yuan. There has to be a central system to settle the trade. Okay. So let's say you pay me 100 yuan. Okay. I have to pay you back 20 yuan. That settlement transaction between banks has to have a particular server. These are the servers they've set up for specifically renminbi transactions. So basically what it means is that I can hold renminbi yuan and I can use it further. Let's say again, you've given me 100 yuan. So I'm holding 100 yuan. Now I want to purchase from a second party, let's say person A. That person cannot or is not linked to a system in which I can trade in yuan. So first I have to convert my yuan into dollars, then trade with that person in dollars. If that person was also connected to a yuan trading base, okay, I can pay directly in yuan. For example, I'll give you Paytm examples. Okay, you have a Paytm account and you've loaded money on Paytm. I have a Paytm account. If the third person is not in Paytm, you will have to convert your money back into rupees to pay that person. Okay, but if the third person is on Paytm, all those transactions are happening within Paytm. So they never leave the Paytm servers. They go from your account to my account, but they stay within Paytm. Okay, the account allocation changes, but they stay within the server. So this is what is called settlement. So the account allocation changes like a bank. If you have 10,000 rupees in HDFC Bank, and you're sending me 10,000 rupees and I also have an HDFC Bank account, the money stays in HDFC Bank. It just goes from your account to my account, but the money stays with HDFC Bank. So they've set up these three trading hubs already in 3 different countries. Now, there is also a concept of unallocated reserve. And the unallocated reserve is what the official reserve a country says it has versus what is recognized by the IMF. And the IMF, as I mentioned, only recognizes 4 currencies, okay, and it recognizes gold. Okay, and of course you have SDR. So 3 things IMF recognizes. So you say I have 100 billion in forex reserves, of which 70 billion are in IMF recognized currencies and formats, because you can have reserves lying in Nepali rupee, in Australian dollar. Okay, you can have reserve lying in Singapore dollar. Okay, that money is physically with you, but it's not IMF recognized because it's not an IMF reserve currency. So these are called unallocated reserves. Now, these unallocated reserves, their quantity sometimes can be hidden because the IMF does not report them. So the estimate right now is that $5 trillion of these unallocated reserves are probably being held in yuan. So the official figure is $291 billion. Okay. And that's 2% of official forex reserves, but unofficial forex reserves are probably lying in yuan up to the tune of $5 trillion. Against India's GDP is $3 trillion. So 1.5 times India's GDP of forex reserves globally are lying in yuan. Now, add to this that the Chinese have set up the Asian Infrastructure Bank, they set up the BRICS Bank, okay. The Chinese own $1.1 trillion in US treasuries, okay. So this is how much financial clout China has globally. 2% of the reserve currencies are held in yuan. They own $1.1 trillion of US treasuries. They themselves have $3 trillion of US forex reserves. $5 trillion perhaps of unaccounted forex reserves are held in yuan, and $1.5 trillion of global debt is owed to China. So this is the kind of heavyweight muscle flexing ability the Chinese now have, which they didn't have 30 years ago.
And they've also started, Rishabh, an e-currency.
So this is where it comes down to why we are having this conversation, and that was the backgrounder. The Chinese have now started something, or they announced that they are going to start something, which is being called the e-renminbi, which is going to be a sovereign digital currency. There are other countries that are talking about this, Russians are talking about this, the Japanese are talking about this, but the Chinese are going ahead with the sovereign digital currency. Now this sovereign digital currency is going to be blockchain based, okay. So it's going to use a similar technology that Bitcoin uses, but unlike Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, it is not going to be crypto. Cryptocurrency basically means that the currency is held in servers all across the world, okay. This will be held in a server and issued only by the Chinese People's Bank of China, okay. So it'll be a blockchain based digital currency, but the sole issuing authority will be the People's Bank of China. The sole settlement authority will become the People's Bank of China, and they're using the same model that currently if you hold renminbi, you can convert that into e-renminbi, okay. They are coming up with a concept of internet-less transactions. So basically using Bluetooth, okay. I can, if I don't have internet or 4G or 5G, whatever, I can transfer the currency using Bluetooth from one phone to the other. So it becomes a true digital currency. They're planning to roll this out, very interestingly, in the 4 areas which are going to host the Winter Olympics in 2 years. These include Shenzhen, Suzhou, Chengdu, as well as Yong'an, okay. Now the reason this is interesting is that a lot of foreign people will be coming, okay. And if you are then forcing them to buy e-renminbi and then trade off the e-renminbi platform, you've converted many people and a large amount of money into e-renminbi, okay. Now the reports coming out of China are that they're going to use it principally for transport, food and retail as a trial. The reports also suggest that McDonald's, Starbucks, Subway, big US companies have been invited in to be part of these trials. Now as I mentioned, this is going to be a sovereign digital currency. Now how does this help the Chinese? Number one, if tomorrow you want to, if you're sitting in the US and you have an e-renminbi account, and I'm sitting in Singapore and I have an e-renminbi account, you can pay me without using the SWIFT, okay, and that payment will be processed where? It will be processed by the People's Bank of China. So the processing unit will be in China, the server will be sitting in China, you will connect to the server from the US, I'll connect to the server from Singapore, and you paid me. So your clearance is done, you have completely avoided the SWIFT system, you have completely avoided dollar transactions, you don't have to be routed through either the Netherlands, Switzerland or the US, you can be routed directly through China, and this then increases the global demand of yuan, okay, because you can convert yuan into e-renminbi, okay, then they say you can convert dollars into e-renminbi also. So you say, okay, I want to trade off this platform, so I have a US dollar account, I bought $100 worth of e-renminbi, and now I'm holding e-renminbi, so the amount of yuan required goes up. Now this gives China control of international financial settlements, it gives them control over the valuations of other currencies, because if you become the currency that is most in use in the world, other nations will peg their currency off you. Currently most nations who peg their currencies do it off the US dollar. It gives China either control of the IMF, like the Americans enjoy, or the opportunity to set up a parallel system to the IMF, okay, for distributing international loans. As I mentioned, 50% of the global transactions are currently being done during the SWIFT system. So China can completely get out of that. Now let's put this entire thing in perspective. What do the Chinese want? Okay, they want that the yuan become the number one currency of the globe to replace the dollar. Okay? By doing all of these things, by making the yuan a forex reserve currency, by creating a digital yuan currency, the number of people wanting yuan across the globe will rise. Okay? Countries can then start taking loans directly in yuan and not in dollars. So if you're wanting to lend Pakistan money for a dam, you can pay them directly in yuan, not in dollars. Financial settlements then take place in yuan. The People's Bank of China controls then all the global financial transactions because all of them have to go through their servers and not through US based servers. Then what does China do? China decides that its $3 trillion in forex reserve, we are dumping into the global markets because we no longer need them. Okay. The US, the country that prints the dollars, holds only $50 billion in forex reserves. We hold $450 billion because they can simply print them. So they no longer need a forex reserve. Okay. The United States, no point in holding a forex reserve. No, that's your currency. It's like Indian holding a forex reserve in rupees. It's our currency. You have rupees, I have rupees. So why do you need a forex reserve? So they say, okay, we no longer require a forex reserve. So we are going to dump $3 trillion into the global market. As soon as you oversupply, what happens? The value of the currency falls. Okay. Then they say, okay, we hold $1.1 trillion in US treasuries. We are going to dump them also. Suddenly you dump $5 trillion of assets into the global markets. The US currency begins to buckle, if not collapse. Then you say all oil trade we will now do in dollars, in yuan, not in dollars. Demand for dollars goes down. Okay. Then you say that all the satellite states that owe us a lot of money, these 50 developing countries, okay, Pakistan, you hold your forex reserves only in yuan, not in dollars. The demand for dollars rise up over there. Okay. Then they simply convert all their dollars into hard assets. How do you do it? You give $10 billion in loan or $100 billion in loan to Sri Lanka. You've given away dollars. Okay. Sri Lanka can't pay you back. You say, okay, give us Hamban Tota. So you basically purchase. So you converted the dollar into a hard physical asset, which is a real estate asset, got nothing to do with currency. Okay. So basically then you break the back of the dollar. First you create enough pool, then you dump the dollars which you hold and you break the back of the dollar and the yuan becomes the global currency. And the e-currency in this, the reason we're calling it a Trojan currency is going to help the Chinese do this because they would want to make the yuan the number one sovereign digital currency. So forget Bitcoin, yuan is the e-renminbi, is the global digital currency. Number two, you can then hold yuan in your books electronically. Okay. And any trade which you make has to go through Chinese servers, as I mentioned. Okay. Then you can have global companies doing their balance sheets in yuan. Right now, Facebook and Google will be doing the balance sheets in dollars. You say, no, you do the balance sheets in yuan. Okay. Because you can hold the yuan in your electronic bank account anywhere in the world thanks to the e-renminbi currency. And that's how, Devika, you totally dominate global financial markets, trade contracts, settlements, bank systems. This will mean that every bank like in India will have to be connected to the People's Bank of China because that is the alternative to SWIFT. Okay. If you want to make a global transaction, you'll have to do it in yuan. You'll have to do it in e-yuan. Okay. Which means you'll have to do it through China. And that means the Chinese can approve it, block it, spy on it, read it, control it. Okay. And the reason we have to be very, very careful about this is because the Chinese system is not transparent. The Americans are a hegemon, no doubt, but they have a slightly more transparent system, at least in China. Okay. They are slightly more friendly to you. I'm being sarcastic. They're much more friendly towards you than China is. They're closer to you in systemic processes than China is. And they're more likely to listen to you than China is. So if China becomes the hegemon, this is what they plan to do, completely dominate global financial transactions, force India to, let's say, hold its forex reserves in yuan. Okay. We are going to be in a deep soup, so we need to be ready for it.
Absolutely, Rishabh. That was a brilliant analysis of what China could be plotting as far as its currency is concerned. If you like the video, do share it and do hit the bell icon if you haven't already. Thank you for watching.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.